Oh, that's right. It's Rinkside Season 8 live here with episode 56. And I'd like to welcome you all to our newest co host of the show, David Hume. Hume taking over as the main spotlight guy. So, welcome to the show and appreciate you coming aboard. How do you feel about things?
Feeling great, Pawtai. It's good to be the new co-host of Rinkside. I've been a fan of it. I mean, pretty much since you guys started doing it. And I think it's just generally a good idea for a league to have, a talk show, about it. Couldn't be happier, with you asking me to be the co-host. And, it's been a good weekend in sports for me with Mizzou winning and a couple of undefeateds going down in the NFL, so it takes a little heat off the Chiefs.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, I don't even have it with me, but I went out and I got my first NFL jersey. In PXF, like I'm over the Bears and my number is 15. So I found a number 15 Bears jersey. It's like got this like nice stitching and everything. And it was only $5 for this that I got on Facebook Marketplace. And so, but it's like this guy Marshall. So I'm thinking like maybe I could like get it restitched with Pawty on the back. You know?
Yeah, you should be able to do that. That'd be pretty sweet.
Yeah. So let's talk about like the state of the league right now. What do you think like the level of competitiveness has like increased?
No, I think it's. I wasn't here for season one, so I can't attest for season one when the league just started. So the other 7 seasons that I've been around for, I mean, I think this is going to be wire to wire, top to bottom, the most competitive season the league's had, and I don't expect to see that change until some of the season one and two guys start hitting their massive regression here in 3 to 4 seasons. But yeah, like 20 teams, 16 of them getting to the playoffs now. Like it's a lot of things are going to come down to those last couple days.
Absolutely. Yeah, everybody's getting a fair shake. You think that there's been a, like what are the chances for a like lower ranked team to I think we know to make the playoffs are quite high, but like to win the playoffs now when it's in this format of like, a tournament, now that more teams are able to enter into it.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of like the real, NHL playoffs, right? Where like, it's not like basketball or football or the MLB where it's like, yeah, okay, you got in as like the eighth seed, right? Well, congrats, you got to play the Warriors. So it's just a formality. Like, get your 5 to 6 games in and go home. I don't think it's going to be like that. I know we plan on talking to Rab about it later. Going over who we think's gonna not make it, but that's just unfortunately the numbers. There's gonna be teams that have to miss out. So
Yeah.
like the teams that I say later, don't think I'm contradicting myself now when I say that like I think every team legitimately has a shot to make the playoffs. And once you're in, it's a 7 game series. Weird things happen. Like it's not unheard of, I don't think, personally. And in fact, I would bet on at least one, of the 4, 7, and 8 seeds we're gonna have winning that first series. Like I think one of them will do it.
So let's take a moment here. We talked about the playoffs, but like there's this outline of the points. Just want to give some education to the viewers at home. So if you win the championship, or you didn't win the championship, all teams would receive 50 points. So those come to you as players whenever you sign contracts, and you get bonuses. Those are either multi-year or loyalty. But then you can see that the 13th through 16th teams are getting 60 points, so a little increment. And then 17 through 20, the bottom four teams get 70 points. So the proposal that I put forward is to change this to give greater equity to the lower ranked teams. So 50 points to everybody that makes the playoffs, and then 80 points to the teams that don't make the playoffs. And this would provide greater value for them to invest in their player base to bring people up. And I think give them a more competitive edge and give the league a more competitive dynamic. So this is my proposal. I'm curious, Hume, did you have a perspective on this?
I think both are valid for what they're trying to do. I I think yours is probably a little better for the simple fact that in these sim leagues, it's you get less of a reward for getting high like the first pick of the draft than you would in real life, right? Because like most people come into the draft around the same, rating to each other. It's not a huge gap. Like, there's not a Bedard that's coming in,
Hmm.
out of the draft rated an 82,
Yeah.
immediately, or like a Sidney Crosby, or uh, can't miss, defensive end in football, right? So like you're the reward usually in sports is, hey, you finish last, you get a better draft pick, so you can get an immediate start or an instant impact, yada yada. Well, that's not really likely to happen here. So you gotta do it another way, right? To balance kind of and get that parity. And I think the extra points for contracts and whatnot for the four teams is a good way to do that.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you seeing my perspective. Hopefully, other people see them as well, and they write their commissioners to let them know that they want this implemented. We for the people, party for the people. Let's move along to the standings that went down in the league. I can take the Rocket Conference, and you can take Mr. Hockey. And I'll start off by saying that we're getting this information live to you, but some of it is a bit limited. Specifically in the Rocket, there's looks like three teams that only have one game registered, but getting you the best information we can. So of these teams, we've got Las Vegas with 5 points in the lead, and then Columbus closely behind them with four, dropping down to three with Alaska and North Bay that are tied. And then we have three teams, Honolulu, Manitoba, and Albuquerque, all have 2 points. And Sapporo there with one. And at the bottom, we have with 0 points, Tennessee and San Diego. So we're seeing, different types of movement. This looks, somewhat similar to what we saw last year, but, I'm sure the next batch of standings on these guys will show a different story. What's going down there in Mr. Hockey?
So first off, I know Tennessee has at least 2 points because they beat us Friday. So
Okay.
um, the Mr. Hockey standings, I am honestly surprised that there were three undefeated teams. Like I said before, like this is the most competitive the league's ever been. So, like, obviously, very small sample size. 4 games in a 51 game season is like literally nothing. Less than 10% of the way through. But three undefeated teams, I wouldn't have bet on that. Um, Especially one of them being Norfolk. Like I did not think that they would shoot out the gate because last year, they shot out the gate slowly, but which like good for them. That solidifies my point of the league being at its most competitive. Is you have a team that last year did not do very well, and then off season draft whatever. Now they're sitting at a perfect record after 4 games. Then you got Turku down there at the bottom. So unfortunately, we had a very poor week, but you know, just as much as I said, you can't take much out of the undefeated. You can't really take much out of the teams that didn't come out well because there's so many more games to make
Yeah.
up that difference.
Yeah. I mean, that pretty much summarizes it. And being one of those, teams, I think that's the direction it's heading. Did you have any perspective on the other teams in the conference, or you think how you grouped it summarizes it for right now?
I mean, I'm not surprised Boston is up there. They were a tough team last season. I should know because they reverse swept us, which is very rude of them. Jacksonville, defending champs, obviously, you expect them to do well because I don't know if they, off the top of my head, I can't think of anybody that they lost. Like, they've been really good, in their history as a franchise of retaining players, which is huge, in sim leagues because you want people to buy in, and if you can keep them around. Um, Florence being, I don't know how their fourth game went off the top of my head, so they could have 6 or 7 points instead of 5, but they were a good team last season. They had a good start, not surprising. Yeah, same with Glasgow and Copenhagen. Rome, having 2 wins, 2 losses, pretty good.
Mm.
Um, and I don't know how Brooklyn's last game went either, so I don't know how many points they got, but they're a team that has a really good defense and goalie, so that can steal you some games. Um, and then Turku and Miami at the bottom. Not too worried about it. We'll pick ourselves up.
Absolutely. Well, let's shine the light on some of the players in the league that are, taking the lead. We've got 5 goals already registered to Buck Wild from Norfolk. Like that's impacting how Norfolk's, 4-0, with a number of players close behind. When we talk about the assist leader, there's 3 people tied: Grizzle Bear, Hunter Hurst Hemsley, Sam Yeager. And when it comes to points, we've got Buck Wild there with 8. So as we turn our attention to the second one, Hume, what's going on with these players on the teams?
I am curious to know if there's a little bit of a Freaky Friday situation going on with Grizzle Bear and Leathers. Because Grizzle Bear's usually the guy that scores a goal, and then Leathers is the assist guy, but it's kind of flipped around. So, I don't know if they're just like role playing as each other for a season, but that surprised me. Buck Wild leading the league in goals is surprising. Um, Leathers being up there in points is the least unsurprising thing I've ever seen, though.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's talk about the time on ice leaders. We've got you know,
With 114 minutes, I'm not going to even try to do the math. That's a lot of ice time again.
yeah,
It makes sense why all of these are D-men, obviously, just by nature. You have half of them as you do skaters. They're going to get the most ice time, but he's a great player. I would want him to be on the ice as much as I can, if he was on my team. So I'm not surprised at that at all. Shots on goal. It's interesting that the guy that has the most goals doesn't even have the most shots on his team.
mm, yeah,
The efficiency is, I guess, Buck Wild's mantra.
yeah,
And then, like, the power play goal leaders, like I said, like, apparently Leathers decided that this year was going to be the year that he turns into a 50 goal a game player. So good for him. And 4 shorties in 1 week, that's good to see. Like, for the longest time, shorties were, as rare as ice in the desert, it seemed like.
well, the league has changed, and 4 in a week. Let's see if that pace continues. Love to see it. When it comes to hits, we've got none other than Doc Lindros Jr. on Miami, with 22 hits. OG, known him since the Dublin Dragons. Great person to have on the team. Um, Penalty minutes, Billy Big Hits. Also, Brett Solberg, he recently got traded, 20 minutes each. So they're certainly setting the tone for, you know, I don't even know. How do you get 20 minutes in a week? That's a lot, right?
4 fights, I guess.
To
Just a fight a game.
fight a game. Yeah. Puck possession leader looks like we got a value check, so we'll skip over that one. So Ibram Grant, um, tied with James Troll and Sam Yeager, each with plus minus 7. That's pretty good.
Yeah, that's almost a plus minus a 2. In the positive a game. Like you got a line doing that, you'll win some
Yeah. Well, as we close out the league leaders, what's going on with the starting with saves?
saves. Joey Duncan is running away with the amount of saves. Um, I don't, and it looks like he's not in the top 10 on save percentage, so he's just getting shot at a lot. Apparently, is going to be quite bruised by the end of the season. Lashinger being number one in save percentage is not surprising in the least because it seems like every time we play against him, he turns into the best goalie that's ever lived. So, I'm glad to see that the stats bear that out.
Yeah.
Only 3 shutouts is surprising.
Hmm.
Especially over the course of a week. That's what 8 games a day. I don't know. I don't do math live, but that's a very small number of shutouts. Even though there should be one for um, Lassick because we did have a shutout last week, so there should be at least 4. Um, but goals against leader Lashinger was 1. You look at that save percentage, and then you realize that he's not even top 3 in saves. So obviously they have a great defense in front of him, and he saves 95% of the things that get through. You're going to have a low goals against average.
Yeah, that's crazy. Quite the season. Well, let's take our attention to our rookies here. We've got our goals leaders are Luis Mendoza and Matthew Taylor, each with a pair of goals this season, and then Jamal Goodman coming in with 2 assists, and Luis Mendoza, the points leader, with 3, but Jamal Goodman and Matthew Taylor are right behind with 2. So great to see these emerging players demonstrate their aptitude on the ice.
Yeah, I mean, that's huge. I don't obviously know how those teams set their lines, but you would just assume rookies are probably going to be on the lower lines, right? So, getting production out of your lower lines is always a huge bonus. If you can score at any, regardless of who's on the ice, that helps you, just keep the pressure up, can lead to more, goals for your top players. And it's, never a bad thing to have as many people on your team scoring as you can.
That's right, and we're here with the Jacksonville co-owner and starting player Joey Raab himself. Welcome again back to Rinkside. How you doing?
I'm well, Potty. Thank you very much for having me.
Yes. Well, yeah, we got Hume over here now. Really a pleasure to have him up on the screen with us. So, it's been a big season for Jacksonville taking home the season 7 championship. What was kind of going on in your head like during that time? Did you think you were going to walk away with it from day one, or did this kind of like just kind of matriculate into something that surprised you in the end?
The whole season kind of felt like one of those like this is our season moments, but we also felt like that during the regular season of 4 and 5. So we kind of had felt like that, but it was a lot of behind the scenes work from Scurvy Dog, and then if the finals itself, Squibs saw firsthand. I was sitting in a chair in the corner watching every game with my head between my knees. I was nervous as hell because Vegas is not an easy team to beat, and thankfully we were able to pull it off.
Yeah, I don't remember off the top of my head how many games did that series go.
5.
5. Okay, yeah,
Yeah,
because I when the matchup came out, I was like this. I expected it to be like 7 games,
same.
like overtime in game 7, to decide it because I felt the two teams were as evenly matched as you can get.
And Vegas had beaten us previously in 2 other game 7s before. So like we were used to it, and
Yeah,
like this
yeah.
was monkey off the back. We knocked out Vegas and won the cup because of it. So that felt really good.
Absolutely. What what went down in the locker room, and like you as the co-owner, like what type of like celebration, went into store? Did you do anything special after winning the championship?
Uh, I did. Um, Rips with Rab very much. I know, Scurvy Dog maybe had a few beers out of celebration for all his hard work, and I know the entire team, the entire night, everybody in the clubhouse was. I mean, we were on cloud nine. We were so ecstatic that we had finally done it.
How do you capture that moment in time? Did you buy anything to commemorate the occasion?
I did. I designed and ordered championship banners for me and my Vipers teammates. So this is a big unveiling. We didn't get to do it. I may have forgotten to do it during week 1 this season, but this is the official Vipers banner that will be rising up the Vipers snake pit.
Wow, that's so
That's
sick.
le- that is legit.
So yeah, I very proud of this team. Obviously,
What
Well, you should be. I mean, you guys have put together a good organization there.
thank you. We've tried.
what are Hume? You were talking about the new playoff format. What are your thoughts on that? You got any questions around that for Joey?
Well, yeah. I mean, I was gonna, instead of asking like, oh, what teams do you think are gonna make the playoffs? It's just gonna be easier because 16 out of 20 teams make it now. Like, what are the 4 teams you think are gonna miss? I guess would be how I would, word that question. Like,
Hmm. Um. Oh man, I have a feeling that the 2 misses from our conference, the Mr. Hockey Conference, I feel will be coming from the Atlantic Division based off of what the Europe Division did last year, where the entire division almost made the playoffs. Like
yeah,
I think they missed by like 1 point,
I
and
believe Rome.
I think they missed
We
by
got
one or
in
two
over
points.
Rome, and it was like last game of the year type
Yeah.
stuff.
Based on that, I would say that the 2 that miss will be from the Atlantic Division, but it's also too early to tell. And from the Rocket Conference, I it could be a crapshoot. Maybe Sapporo, but I would love to see some improvement with them. Um, Honolulu made it last year, so I would love to see them do it again. Um, Obviously, Columbus. Nate's a good guy. Nate's a good friend, so I feel like they'll make it again. Um,
No.
Man, I don't know. That's kind of a tough question because I feel like anybody can win and anybody could get in. Diplomatic
Yeah,
answer.
that's
Sorry.
that's kind of my line of thinking too. Like just looking at the teams and their rosters, and we've only played 4 games. It's too small of a sample size to really take much away yet. But in the Mr. Hockey Conference, like I do think Europe's going to put every team in. And so, if that's going to happen, then the 2 teams that are going to miss are going to have to be out of the Atlantic. And I would say, like, I would bet on Brooklyn and Miami being the 2 that miss out, just for opposite reasons, actually. Like, the league is very tight now when it comes to rosters, and there's so many goalies that are 99 at this point that I think having a younger, lower rated goalie is what's going to be the difference, in wins. And then Brooklyn's kind of got the opposite thing in my mind where just ratings wise, compared to the other teams, their offense is a lot weaker, and like you can't win every game 1-0. You know, even if you
Well,
have a
with
good
two-time
defense
Cup
and a great
champion
team.
Chris McBride in net, they could.
Yeah, but it's Evan always likes to say that offense is less consistent than defense, and when you have a lower rated offense than your opponents, it's going to be even more inconsistent. So like I think they're going to have a little bit of an issue scoring goals, and that's what's going to cost them. And the Rocket, man, that's. Whew, I mean, Sapporo, I would probably put my money on Sapporo, and I mean probably North Bay. That would be my like two just predictions on who's not going to make it. Like I hope nobody feels slighted, but it's like that's the question: who's not going to make it? So
You're bound to break hearts eventually, Hume.
yeah, well, people are just going to be mad I didn't say Turku.
You already know what the plan is for Turku.
Yeah, we make it and we lose in the first round. Just mark your calendars by it.
Joey, what do you think of like the evolution of the league so far? You mentioned that it's a tighter knit community. How do you think the league has grown over this past year?
Um, it's always fun to watch. You know, everybody interacting. I'm not as active as I used to be, but it's nice to see everybody interacting in the general chat or sports or pets or all the different channels. In terms of like on the ice, the previous question makes it really hard to answer because, like I said, any team can win games and any team can make the playoffs. And I feel like winning a cup gets harder now. Like it's for any team, it gets harder now because there are now 20 teams that are catching up in stats and attributes and everything. And I like the idea of a 16 team playoff, but obviously with more teams, but we don't like that E word. So it's gonna be tough. It's gonna be tough.
What's the E word?
Expansion.
Oh, expansion. Okay.
Yeah, I normally, like in real sports leagues, right? I normally don't like it when the playoffs are so big that like over half the teams make it because I feel like it kind of cheapens the regular season. But for a sim league, I have less of an issue with it because like it keeps people engaged longer. There's not teams that are like, oh well, we're eliminated with 3 weeks left in the season. Like it. I think having the 16 teams is going to drive engagement more because everybody will probably be in it until like the last 4 games.
Yeah, makes for great TV.
Exactly.
It's a great point. If you could have like your subscriber base like be more engaged and actually watch, because not everybody watches the games, but if you're in the playoffs, you're probably gonna watch your team. So maybe like there should be an uptick in viewership throughout the duration of the playoffs. And who knows, like what else could you use with that time? You could share, the PXF league, that people could be a part of, or the RTO, the golf league, or Savile or something. So it's like, what do we make the most of this like increase in viewership aside from just a shared experience, which I think is like a granted. Was kind of curious, Joey. For your team to be successful in the future and for other teams to be successful, like what is there any advice you have for like team owners, team management people out there, like how to compete?
Uh Man, that's more of a question I feel like for Scurvy, because again he does a lot of the behind the scenes stuff. He is the unofficial owner. Let's be honest. Um, for me personally, it's just treating your players right and making sure that like you do whatever you can to give them the minutes that they deserve. For instance, we noticed, with last season, rookie of the year, Javad Storm, you know, took the league by storm. We wanted to give him more minutes this season. So we're kind of rotating lines every now and then to bump him up so he gets more playing time. And, we do that with all of our players. We make, everybody feel welcome in the clubhouse and, welcome in the chats and everything. And we showcase each other's positives. Whenever somebody scores a goal, you can always bank on, there's going to be a Twitch highlight in our clubhouse, with that player tagged. Sometimes we'll make fun of one another. For instance, Scurvy didn't really play great defense on a sponge scrub goal during week 1. And he posted it in the clubhouse and was like, guys, this is not how you play defense. So it's just, keeping your own players involved, heard and active is probably the best way to just keep a tight knit team. And that's why we have rarely gotten rid of players. But just, if you don't want to win, if you're not interested in winning and you just want to have fun, build your team to just have fun. But you can also build that team competitively while still having fun. Look at Copenhagen, look at Alaska, look at Vegas, look at now Jacksonville, look at, Miami, because I know that you guys still have fun. Those uniforms, I love them. Those home and aways, baby. That's what I wanted. I wanted those neons. I love it.
That Miami Vice, I love it.
I love
Like
it.
Grand Theft Auto Vice City.
Hell yeah. Running around with a chainsaw, man, just snatching cars. Hume, I'm wondering, before we close out with Joey's kind of closing thoughts, did you have any other questions here, on your mind?
I got one burning question that, I get so much fan mail for it. Like, oh, you gotta ask him this. The people want to know. Scurvy's favorite brand of dog biscuits, what are they?
Ooh. I think it's the milk bone.
That was the Vegas line. That was like plus 250 for milk bone. So, I made a little
I
money
think
on
it's
that
milk
bet.
bone.
Yeah.
I don't think he's picky though, because Adam Banks doesn't really give him treats very often anymore. So I don't think he's picky. I think he wants, any kind of treats that you can give Scurvy, give it to him.
I mean, he struck me as kind of like just like milk bone is just Old Faithful, just the classic,
Classic.
standard,
There you go.
and they're not the best, but you know what you're gonna get, consistent.
It seems like more like a Joey thing. It's not the best, but you get what you get.
Well, speaking of Joey things, did you have any closing thoughts for our audience as we, move Rinkside into its 6th season, and we're in the 6th season of goals? Like, what's on your mind?
Man, 6 seasons of Rinkside, 8 seasons of goals. Stay along for the ride. I've had moments here or there where I've been like, you know what, I think I'm done with the league. I think I'm going to leave. It gets better, and the more that you interact with these people, and the more that you talk to various players in the league, you're going to discover that you have a lot of friends here, and that's one reason why I stay. Is not to get sentimental, but I consider everybody in goals a friend of mine because of the interactions that I have with you guys. And goals is a community, and I love it for it.
Well, excellent. Well, we love you too, and pleasure having you on. This is closing us out, but thanks for hopping on, Raab.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, fellas.
Thank you.
Wanted to thank you again for hopping on with me. Looking forward to working with you. You got any closing thoughts for our audience before we send this one off?
Yeah, I want to say I think this is I don't know if I've said this like publicly, like to the league before. I just want to say I really appreciate the outpouring of support we've got for, the unfortunate passing of McGinley. Like it really does mean a lot to see the league, just that support, and with the retiring of number 8, for teams, like it means a lot, as a guy that obviously played, on the same team as him in goals and got to know him, just chatting on Discord. Like it's like, yeah, thanks. I just want to say thank you guys. Just a real that's what makes this league special. There's the people in it, and there's a lot of good people in the league. So
Absolutely. A lot of good people. And those that are watching us here on Rinkside want to send it out to you. Thanks again for tuning in to the 8th season of Rinkside.